My husband and I first met in graduate school, and eventually a teaching opportunity came up for him in a kind of a rural area at a small college. We bought a small house on 80 acres. We raised pretty much every kind of animal you can think of. And this was a town where there was no gay and lesbian club. There was a dirty bookstore and there was a Christian bookstore. But other than that, there was no other bookstore. And I didn't really feel like trying to meet people, other couples at the dirty bookstore or the Christian bookstore. Years later, eventually, a large book chain, I think Borders bookstore, showed up there. And they had a gay and lesbian section. So it's kind of a hangout place, and you could connect with people in some way, shape, or form. The other place we used to meet people was actually at the nursery and the garden centers. There'd always be like two men, you could spot them a mile away, two men, with a shopping cart, chock-a block with ornamentals or perennials or whatever it was. And you might be able to strike up a conversation. Initially, a lot of people thought we were brothers or related in some way, shape, or form. One of them somehow got the idea that we had been divorced. One of us had been divorced or something like that. But the fact of the matter is, nobody really wanted to know that there were gay people living, in this really rural environment. For them, most gay people lived way out in like California or something like that, or New York City. They weren't living in these tiny towns in the middle of the rural Midwest. That just wasn't really, in their realm of consciousness. And so we didn't really feel like mixing it up and making a big deal of the fact that we were gay and that we were living there. So that's kind of how things panned out. And so we didn't really feel like mixing it up and making a big deal of the fact that we were gay and that we were living there. So that's kind of how things panned out. Basically, the only thing they really cared about was whether they were going to be able to hunt on the property. That was key, and if you were willing to let people hunt on your property, you were good, and that was good. You weren't a city slicker coming along with a lot of rules and a lot of debate. We kept it to ourselves and they left it to ourselves. The only real issue we had basically was occasionally when you would have tradesmen come by. I remember we had some renovations done to our house, and one of the guys, the head contractor, who was very cool and understood the situation. He's like, you don't want to be around roofers. So you might not want to be around that day, if there's two of you. And that was not uncommon. There would be other times when you might have somebody who would stop by from construction or repair person. We had a guy who was like a pest control guy. And one time, I came up and we were both in the room at the same time, and you could see the look on this guy's face, like he put it together and he never came back. It took a while to find a really good contractor who could work with us on some of the stuff. Because some of the contractors, if there was two of you there, they weren't openly homophobic, you just wouldn't hear back from them. They wouldn't deal. So we learned a lot of times if somebody had to come out to fix something or other, it'd just be one of us. Just be one of us, and they deal with just one of us, and that would be it. So that kind of sucked, but that was just the fact of life. That's how it was, and we didn't want to make a lot of waves, and that's okay. We understand the importance of testimony, of actually explaining what life was like, but there's also value in keeping things up to yourself and learning to live within your immediate circumstances. And I think it's very easy nowadays to live a gay life is to be really fabulous. You have to have, constantly traveling all over the place and different cruise ships and, this exotic location and that exotic location and this fabulous restaurant and that fabulous restaurant. We're living in the middle of nowhere still on a beautiful area, very, very beautiful area, with our animals and with our garden and with the two of us. That's enough. That's enough. And it's really important to recognize that and appreciate what's just enough, what you have in front of you. It's a really beautiful thing that you can cultivate together.